Welcome to the DraftKings running back analysis for the NFL wildcard round. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Overall, 4-game slate here to kick things off for the playoffs, and you're preparing by getting ready for some cold weather.
Yo, dude, what's going on, bro? So I think running back is fairly straightforward this week. I think there are a few guys you can take chances on, but ultimately it comes down to, Le'Veon Bell is your top running back, and you'd be silly to really fade him. I mean, I can understand the logic, but not really. No, there's no logic to fade him. I don't care if he's 80% in the tournament. The only logic is that you think he's going to get hurt. Like Sue is going to, go after his ankle after the play and step on it. That's the only logic you can do. And he should be 90% in tournaments. He really should be. So I don't think he's going to be. So because of that, I think you just lock him in automatically in every lineup.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to really fade him. Bottom 5 rush defense in Miami, and overall, there's no one that really compares to his floor and ceiling on this slate in terms of being running back. I mean, is he just a must play across all positions? Do you even see yourself making a wide receiver heavy lineup and then going cheap at running back?
I just, you even look at the two guys below him, Jay Ajayi and Lamar Miller, and they're both hurt right now. So it's kind of like if Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham go off, that's great. But you're still losing. You're probably losing 15 points from your RB1 if you're just fading Bell all out. So, I mean, if you think you can make it work with the elite wide receivers, then I guess you can go with it. But I mean, for the most part, cash or tournament, and probably just tournament for this weekend because you don't want to play cash on a 4-game slate. But if you want to, then I guess that's fine. But I'm going Bell.
Yeah, hard not to. And those guys, Jay Ajayi, Lamar Miller. Jay Ajayi obviously rushed for return yards against this Pittsburgh defense, earlier this season. It's hard for me to see something even similar or remotely close to what he did. But, I mean, is he a logistic swerve?
He's not a swerve, but I'd gladly play him with Bell. I mean, I think that's where the creativity comes in, what you do with that second RB and that flex. So between Ajayi and Miller, I certainly prefer Ajayi. Obviously, a little more healthy. Miller didn't even play last week. So I'm certainly interested in Ajayi at 6,800. That's a pretty reasonable price for a guy facing a defense that simply isn't that great. I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't been that great this year. They're an interesting GPP play this weekend as far as fantasy is concerned, but as far as stopping their opponents, they haven't been all that great this year. So I think Ajayi is an interesting play once again, and a much better option than, say, a Thomas Rawls.
Yeah, I mean, we get into that. I think the Thomas Rawls price tag just makes me easily just go, I'll just bump up to Lamar Miller for 400 more.
And again, I was looking at the box scores yesterday for Thomas Rawls, and it kind of matches what his play was. Obviously, he had that nice little stretch in week 13 and week 14 against the Packers and Carolina. His last 3 games hasn't averaged over 2 yards per carry in each of the last 3 games. And, when a guy's averaging 3 yards per carry on the season or whatever, you think it can average out. When a guy's averaging 1 yard per carry, I mean, that's a combination of the line and him not playing well. That's just a lot of things going wrong, and that should be a big red flag. So, yes, I think Seattle's going to win this game. No, I don't think it's going to be Thomas Rawls. He's still in tournament play just because it's a 4-game slate. But when you're doing that, he's really in your 10th to 15th lineup for the first time. And you're just kind of saying, okay, I mean, this could happen. So I'm going to fire him in there, but it's not like he shouldn't be any part of your main roster construction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think finding the RB2 on this slate is going to be where a lot of the difference is made because, I mean, we kind of dive down to some of these cheap guys. Ty Montgomery, 5,500, Latavius Murray, 5K. And then really outside of that, I mean, are you intrigued with any of the Giants backs? I mean, it seems that Paul Perkins might be opening up as a starting role this week from a couple of tweets that I saw earlier.
So Latavius Murray is an interesting tournament guy, I think, as far as attacking this Houston defense. I think the running game has the best shot. If Derek Carr was in, obviously they'd be throwing more. Obviously, Houston can put, extra emphasis on the running game, but I think Latavius Murray is talented enough and that O-line is good enough to where, they must win game. And this is the type of game where I think Oakland can win. I know they're decent underdogs in Vegas, but based on how they've played this season, even without Derek Carr, I think they can get it done in the running game this week. If they get to the goal line, it's Latavius Murray. If he gets that rushing touchdown and 40 yards, that's 10 points, and you're not honestly hating that on a slate like this. If he gets a few catches and gets to that 12 range, you're looking pretty good. Ty Montgomery, certainly in tournament play. Again, there's just not that cash option you feel really safe with. Obviously, Kristen Michael's been eating into those touches. Same with Aaron Ripkowski. So you're not loving Ty Montgomery's, workload, but he is going to get those 3 to 4 receptions. He is going to get those 8 to 9 carries. He can make some big plays happen. We've seen that. Don't love it against this Giants defense, but, if he can break a big one and break one of those, 50-yard rushing touchdowns, that's going to be a huge advantage early on. And obviously Zach Zenner in that range as well. Not loving that matchup with the Seattle defense, but it's actually not as intimidating as it was early in the season. Zenner, obviously 20 DK points in each of the last 2 games. So, he's got that sort of mini role in the passing game over the last 3 weeks, and they just give it to him. They have no other option. Like, Dwayne Washington is clearly taking the back seat there. Zenner is the guy, should expect 20 touches, win or lose. So I think he's an interesting guy. If you're looking for a cash game guy, that's probably it in terms of workload. So I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at. But overall, it's rough. It's rough out there.
Yeah, it's not a good running back slate. And I mean, we look, there's the Giants, Paul Perkins, a guy who's rushed 21, 15, 11, and 15 attempts over his last 4 games, has clearly been the better back than Rashad Jennings, I think, over that span. 4,100, obviously a tough Green Bay defense. And I think there's general risk here because of game flow. I mean, Paul Perkins isn't much of, or hasn't been used much in the passing game. If that's the case, I think he could be a guy who gets taken out of play and then you're not really seeing much of him on the field.
Yeah, but he's an interesting play if that's a close game for sure. 4,100. Probably not going to be very highly owned because of all the guys I just mentioned. So, yeah, I mean, if you want a guy at 10%, I think you could get him at 10 to 15%. And if you do that, I mean, that's a pretty big advantage.
Yeah, it definitely is. If it's a long shot, but CJ Prosise could be able to practice this week. Still obviously dealing with injury. If that's the case, 1 in 10 lineup, maybe toss him in.
No.
Fine. What a real bummer, man. What a bummer.
No, if he plays, I mean, I get it, but I just don't envision a big enough workload. I'd imagine he gets 4 or 5 catches if he plays, so that'll be fun, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously the workload would be an issue, but always have potential for a big kind of blow-up play.
Sure.
Anyone else here? No?
No, not really. I mean, people might want to take a chance with the Oakland secondary speed guys. I'm not really in on that idea. and there's just not really much else here. I see J.D. McKissick is 170-pound running back, so that's probably not good for him either. So I had fun tracking his college career. Not sure it's going to translate to playoff snaps, though.
No, I think at 3K with guys' names of Michael Burton and Terrence McGee and Roosevelt Nix, you're probably right. So if you want to check out Russ's article on the top running backs that he thinks are viable for the wild card round, you can head on over to dayfantasycafe.com, check that out, and be sure to check out the rest of our wild card content.